Imagine this, it's a crisp Monday morning, the kind where the air smells like coffee and possibility. You're cruising down the highway late for work because your alarm didn't go off, and your phone's buzzing with emails you haven't answered. Then bam, traffic stops dead. A sea of brake lights stretches out in front of you and your stomach drops. You're not just late now, you're screwed. Your boss is going to chew you out. That big meeting's about to start without you. And the day's barely begun. Panic creeps in. Your hands grip the wheel tighter. What do? Most of us have been there, maybe not stuck in traffic, but caught in some mess where life throws a curveball, and it feels like the whole world's caving in. That's where this story begins. A regular guy named Jake, an average American dude with a job, a dog, and a dream of keeping it all together. But this isn't just about a bad day. It's about how Jake turned chaos into calm, fear into focus, using something ancient yet insanely practical Stoicism. Welcome to No Fear, Just Focus, a modern Stoics playbook. Stick with me because, by the end, you'll see how Jake and maybe you can face anything life throws your way without breaking a sweat. Jake wasn't always calm. Back in that traffic jam, he was a mess. His heart was racing, his mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. I'm gonna lose this client. My boss is gonna fire me. How am I gonna pay rent? He was 32, working a mid-level marketing gig in Chicago. Decent paycheck, but always one slip-up away from feeling like a failure. He had a scruffy mutt named Max, a cramped apartment, and a habit of stressing over stuff he couldn't control like that traffic. Sound familiar? We've all got our own version of that highway moment where life says, deal with it, and we're left scrambling. But here's the thing. Jake didn't stay stuck. Not that day. Not ever again. Because something clicked for him. Something he'd stumbled across late one night scrolling YouTube of philosophy from 2,000 years ago that felt like it was written for right now. Stoicism. Not the suck it up and feel nothing stereotype, but a real, practical way to live. It's about cutting through the noise, focusing on what you can do and letting go of the rest. And that morning, stuck in traffic, Jake decided to test it out. This is his story, and trust me, it's worth hearing. It started with a deep breath. Jake unclenched his fists from the steering wheel and muttered to himself, "Okay, what's in my control here?" That's Stoicism 101, straight from a guy named Epictetus, a former slave-turned-philosopher who basically said, you can't control the world, but you can control how you react to it. Jake couldn't move the cars, fix the wreck, up ahead, or rewind time to leave earlier. But he could stop freaking out. He could think. He could act. So he did. He pulled out his phone not to doom scroll or text his boss some frantic excuse but to open a podcast app. He'd saved an episode about Stoicism a while back, something about amor fata-loving your fate. He hit play, and as some calm voice filled the car, he started to listen. The guy on the podcast said, "Every moment, good or bad, is a chance to practice who you want to be." Jake smirked. Yeah, right, he thought. Stuck in traffic's a chance to practice losing my mind. But then the voice kept going. You don't have to like it. You just have to use it. That hit him. Use it? How do you use a traffic jam? Jake glanced around, cars honking, people yelling out windows, and then back at his phone. The meeting was in 20 minutes, and he was still miles away. Old Jake would have spiraled. New Jake? He decided to try something. He texted his boss. Stuck in traffic, gonna be late. I'll call into the meeting from here. Then he dialed in, muted himself, and listened. No excuses, no drama, just action. The podcast kept playing in the background, low enough to hear the meeting but loud enough to keep him grounded. And you know what? It worked. His boss didn't care. He was just glad Jake was there. The client didn't notice. The world didn't end. By the time traffic cleared, Jake wasn't a sweaty mess anymore. He was calm, focused. He'd taken a crap situation and turned it into something he could handle. That's when he realized Stoicism wasn't just old quotes from dead. Guys, it was a playbook, a way to live without fear dragging you down. That traffic jam was just the beginning. Jake didn't turn into a stoic master overnight. He's not that guy. He's the type who forgets to take the trash out and trips over Max's chew toys. But something about that morning stuck with him. He kept thinking about that phrase, amor fatalove your fate. It sounded weird, almost cheesy, like a motivational poster, but the more he rolled it around in his head, the more it made sense. Life's gonna suck sometimes. Why fight that? Why not roll with it instead? Later that night, after feeding Max and cracking a beer, Jake dug deeper. He wasn't a big reader. College was a blur of Cliff's Notes and energy drinks, but he found a book on his shelf he'd bought on a whim. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Some Roman emperor dude. He'd never cracked it open, but now felt like the time. He flipped to a random page and read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Jake leaned back on his couch, Max snoring beside him, and thought, that's it? That's what I did today. Marcus wasn't kidding. Jake couldn't control the traffic, but he could control his headspace. He didn't have to let the stress own him. That idea lit a spark. Over the next few days, he started poking around online YouTube videos, Reddit threads, even some X posts about Stoicism. He found 3 big names kept popping up: Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. An emperor, a slave, and a rich playwright. Weird trio, right? But they all said the same thing in different ways. Focus on what you can control, ditch the rest, and keep moving. Jake started small. At work, he stopped stressing about his coworker Dave, who always took credit for Jake's ideas. "Not my problem," he'd mutter, channeling Epictetus. "Dave's a jerk? Fine." Jake's job was to do good work, not fix Dave's ego. At home, when Max chewed up a shoe, Jake didn't yell. He shrugged a Morfatti and grabbed a new pair. Little by little, he was rewiring himself. Fear wasn't gone, but it wasn't in the driver's seat anymore. Jake was getting the hang of this stoic thing. Traffic jams, handled. Annoying coworkers, no sweat. Even Max's shoe-chewing sprees were just part of the deal now. He'd mutter amor fati like it was his new catchphrase, and it felt good-like. He'd cracked some secret code to staying chill. But life's funny. Just when you think you've got it figured out, it throws you a fastball. For Jake, that fastball came on a rainy Thursday, 3 weeks after his traffic jam epiphany. He was at work, sipping lukewarm coffee, when his phone buzzed. It was his sister, Emily, who lived a couple hours away in Milwaukee. She didn't call. Often just texts about dumb memes or pictures of her kids. So a call meant something. "Jake," she said, her voice tight. "Mom's in the hospital. They think it's her heart. You need to get here." The line went quiet, but Jake's head started screaming. Mom? A heart thing? She was 63, tough as nails. The kind of woman who'd shovel, snow in a blizzard, and then bake you cookies after. This wasn't supposed to happen. He grabbed his keys, told his boss he was out, and hit the road. The drive was a blur rain smacking the windshield, wipers squeaking, his brain on overdrive. Is she okay? What if she's not? What do I do? Old Jake would have been a wreck, white-knuckling the wheel, imagining every awful possibility. New Jake? He was still freaking out. Stoicism doesn't make you a robot, but he had tools now. He took a breath deep and slow, and asked himself the Epictetus question. What's in my control? Not much, he realized. He couldn't fix his mom's heart. He couldn't stop the rain or make the hospital closer. But he could drive safe. He could stay sharp. He could get there. So he did. No radio, no podcast this time, just him in the road focusing on what he could do instead of drowning in what he couldn't. It wasn't easy. Fear clawed at him, whispering, "What if you're too late?" But he kept pushing it back. Not now, he told himself. Focus. When he got to the hospital, Emily was in the waiting room, eyes red, holding a styrofoam cup of coffee she wasn't drinking. She's stable, she said. They're running tests. It's not a heart attack, but something's wrong. Jake nodded, hugged her, and sat down. The waiting was brutal hours of bad lighting, stale air, and that antiseptic smell that makes your skin crawl. His mind kept trying to run wild. What if it's serious? What if she needs surgery? What if he stopped himself? Marcus Aurelius popped into his head. Don't let your imagination be your master. Jake wasn't a doctor. He didn't know the future. All he could do was be there. So he was. He grabbed Emily another coffee, cracked a dumb joke about hospital food to make her smile, and sat with her. No pacing, no ranting, just presence. When the doctor finally came out, it was good news, sort of. Their mom had a condition called atrial fibrillation. Her heart was out of rhythm, but manageable with meds and monitoring. She'd be okay, at least for now. Jake felt relief wash over him, but also something else. Strength. He hadn't crumbled. He'd faced the fear and kept going. Driving home that night, he thought about Seneca, the Stoic playwright he'd been reading about. Seneca had this idea called premeditatio malorum, imagining the worst so you're ready for it. Not to be a downer, but to toughen up. Jake hadn't done that on purpose, but he'd lived it. The hospital scare was a gut punch, but Stoicism had been like a shield. He didn't fall apart, he focused, and that felt like a win. After the hospital scare, Jake didn't just go back to normal. Normal wasn't good enough anymore. He'd seen what Stoicism could do, not just for little stuff like traffic or chewed shoes, but for the big, messy, real-life moments. He wanted more of that. So he doubled down. This wasn't a phase or a self-help kick. It was a way of living he could build on. He started simple. Every morning, while Max chewed his kibble, Jake would sit with a notebook and jot down one thing he'd focus on that day. Not a to-do list. Stoics aren't about checklists, but a mindset. One day it was, stay patient with Dave. Another, don't sweat the small stuff. It was like setting a compass for his brain. He'd read a page of Meditations or a Seneca letter too short, punchy stuff he could carry with him. Marcus wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Jake took that to heart. If he could keep his head straight, the rest would follow. Work got easier. Dave still sucked, but Jake stopped caring. He'd do his job, nail his pitches, and let Dave strut around like a peacock. That's on him, Jake would think, brushing it off. Clients noticed Jake's calm vibe made him stand out. One even said, "You're like the chillest guy in the room." "How do you do it?" Jake just grinned. "Old Roman tricks," he said, half joking. He wasn't about to preach stoicism in a boardroom, but it was working. Home life shifted too. Max was still a chaos agent once he dug up the neighbor's tulips, but Jake didn't lose it. He'd laugh, grab a shovel, and fix it. "Amor fati, buddy," he'd tell Max, who'd just wag his tail like he got it. Jake even started running again, something he'd dropped years ago. Not for a marathon or anything, just to feel his legs move, to clear his head. Seneca talked about training the body like the mind, and Jake figured, why not? It wasn't about perfection, it was about showing up. The real test came a month later. His mom's meds were working, but she needed a follow-up, and Jake drove her. She was nervous hospitals spooked her now, and he could have been too. Instead, he stayed steady. They chatted about dumb stuff, like Max's latest mess, and when the doctor said everything looked good, Jake didn't just feel relief, he felt proud. He'd been her rock. Stoicism wasn't just saving him, it was spilling over to the people he cared about. By now, Jake was hooked. He wasn't some toga-wearing philosopher, just a guy in Chicago with a dog and a job, but he was living better. Fear still showed up. Life's not that tidy, but it didn't run the show. Focus did. And that's when he started wondering, could this help other people too? Jake was starting to feel like he'd stumbled onto something big. Not big like winning the lottery or getting famous, big like finding a tool that actually worked. Stoicism wasn't just getting him through traffic jams or hospital scares. It was changing how he showed up every day. He was calmer, sharper, more himself. And people noticed. His sister Emily kept saying, "You're different, Jake, like chill different." Even his boss tossed him a rare compliment. "You're steady, man. I like that." Steady. Jake liked that too. One night, sprawled on his couch with Max drooling on his lap, Jake started thinking, what if this could help other people? He wasn't a guru or a life coach, God, no, he'd laugh at that, but he knew what it was like to feel stuck, stressed, and scared. He'd been there, and Stoicism had pulled him out. Maybe it could pull others out too. He grabbed his phone and started scrolling X, looking at posts about stress, work, life, people venting about the same crap he used to lose sleep over. There's gotta be a way to share this, he muttered to Max, who just farted in response. Classic Max. The idea hit him. A podcast. Nothing fancy, just him, a mic, and some real talk about Stoicism for regular people. Not scholars or monks, but guys. Like him, dudes with jobs, bills, and dogs who eat shoes. He'd call it something simple like the Stoic Playbook. He didn't have a studio or a clue how to edit audio, but he had his phone and a story. That was enough. The next day, he ordered a cheap mic off Amazon, watched a YouTube tutorial on recording, and got to work. His first episode was rough. He sat in his kitchen, Max snoring in the background, and rambled about the traffic jam that started it all. Look, he said into the mic, life's gonna suck sometimes. You can't stop that, but you can stop letting it own you. That's what this Stoic stuff taught me. He stumbled over words, forgot half his points, but kept going. He talked about Epictetus and control, Marcus and focus, Seneca and facing the worst. It was messy, but it was him. He uploaded it to a free hosting site, shared the link on X, and waited. A week later, he had 50 downloads. 50. He didn't know who these people were, but they'd listened. A few even messaged him, "Dude, this traffic thing, I get it. More of this." Another said, "Never heard of Stoicism, but I'm in." Jake grinned. This wasn't about going viral, it was about reaching people who felt like he used to. He kept recording, one episode a week. Traffic jams turned into hospital stories, then work gripes, all tied back to the Stoic Playbook. His audience grew 100, then 200. Small but real. Then came the curveball. One of his listeners, a guy named Chris from Ohio, emailed him. "Jake, love the podcast. I'm losing my job next month, layoffs. How do I not freak out?" Jake read it over breakfast, Max begging for bacon. This was different. Not a hypothetical, he had to help someone for real. He thought about Seneca's premeditatio malorum and Marcus's line about the mind being your power. That night he recorded a bonus episode just for Chris. "All right, Chris," he started. "Layoffs suck. No way around that. But here's the deal. You can't control the company, the economy, whatever. You can control you. Imagine the worst job's gone, money's tight. Okay, now what? You've got skills. You've got time. Start there. Don't let fear write the story." He posted it, tagged Chris on X, and hoped it landed. 2 days later, Chris replied, "Man, that helped. I'm still scared, but I'm moving. Thanks." Jake fist bumped the air. This Stoic stuff wasn't just his anymore, it was rippling. Jake's podcast was picking up steam, but life doesn't let you coast for long. 6 months into his Stoic journey, the storm hit literally and figuratively. Chicago got slammed with a late spring blizzard, the kind that shuts down highways and knocks out power. Jake's apartment went dark. Max whimpered at the wind, and then his phone buzzed with worse news. His company was cutting hours. Not layoffs yet, but close. His paycheck was about to shrink, and rent wasn't getting cheaper. Jake would have panicked. How do I pay bills? What if I lose the place? New Jake felt the fear too, but he didn't let it take over. He lit a candle, grabbed his notebook, and wrote, "What's in my control? Power outage? Nope. Company cuts? Nope." But he could budget, hustle for freelance gigs, keep warm. He threw an extra blanket on Max, boiled water on his camping stove, and got to work. No whining, just doing. The next day, he called Emily. "You okay up there?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "Cold, broke, but fine." She laughed. "You're weirdly calm about this." He shrugged, even though she couldn't see it. "It's just weather and money. I've got a roof and a dog. I'll figure it out." That was Stoicism in action, not pretending everything's great, but facing it head on. He thought of Marcus again. What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. Jake wasn't crying. He was moving. He posted about it on X. Blizzard, no power. Hours cut. Stoic lesson. Control what you can. Let the rest go. Still here. A few listeners chimed in. "Hang in there, man." And Chris, the Ohio guy, wrote, "You got this. I'm freelancing now, your episode pushed me. Jake smiled. The storm sucked, but it wasn't just his fight anymore. He recorded an episode in the dark, voice crackling through the mic. Life's a blizzard sometimes. You don't stop it, you walk through it. The power came back after 2 days. His hours stabilized a week later and he picked up a side gig designing ads for a local shop. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. The storm tested him, and he didn't break. Focus held. Fear didn't win. Jake was riding a quiet high. His podcast had hit 500 regular listeners, not huge, but enough to feel like he was onto something. He'd weathered the blizzard, juggled his shrinking hours, and even landed that freelance gig. Max was still a goofball. His mom's heart was steady and Stoicism was his anchor. He'd gotten good at the basics. Control what you can, let go of what you can't. Love the mess life hands you. But Stoicism isn't a magic shield. It's a tool, and tools get tested. It started small. The freelance client, a little coffee shop, downtown, stiffed him on the last payment. Cash flow's tight, they said. We'll get you next month. Jake shrugged it off, a more Facian figured he'd make it work. Then his car broke down. Not a flat tire, but some engine thing that cost $800 he didn't have. He dipped into savings, muttering Marcus's line about the mind being the real power, not cash. He was still standing, but life wasn't done. A week later, his boss called him in. Jake, we're restructuring. Hours are cut again, 20 a week now. Might be temporary, might not. 20 hours? That was half his income, gone. Rent was due in 10 days, and the math wasn't mathing. He nodded, said got it, and walked out, but his chest felt tight. That night, Emily called Mom's meds had side effects, nothing dire, but she needed tests again. Can you come? She asked. Jake said yes, even though gas money was a stretch. Back home, Max chewed through a couch cushion. Foam everywhere. Jake stared at the mess, then at his bank account. $200 left. The podcast mic sat on the table, mocking him. What's the point? He thought. I'm preaching focus, but I'm drowning. Fear wasn't creeping anymore. It was pounding. He slumped on the floor, Max licking his face, and for the first time in months he felt like old Jake. Lost. Scared. Done. He didn't sleep. At 3 a.m. he grabbed Meditations off the shelf and flipped it open. Marcus wrote, If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Jake snorted. Easy for you to say, Emperor Guy. You didn't have a dog eating your furniture. But he kept reading. You don't need to turn this into something. It's just what's happening. That stuck. He wasn't failing. He was just in a storm. A big one. Morning came. He didn't spiral. He grabbed his notebook and wrote, What's in my control? Money was tight, but he could cut costs. Goodbye takeout. Hello ramen. The car. Public transit for now. Mom? He'd drive up tomorrow, crash on Emily's couch, save on gas. The podcast? He'd keep going, free to make, and it kept him sane. Max's cushion massacre? A $20 fix from the thrift store? Step by step he mapped it out. It wasn't pretty, but it was a plan. He recorded that day, raw and real. Hey, it's Jake. Life's kicking my ass right now. Broke car, broke bank, broke couch, thanks to Max. But here's what Stoicism says. It's not the mess, it's what you do with it. I'm not giving up. You shouldn't either. He posted it. No polish, just truth. The response was instant. Listeners flooded X. Dude, same, keep going. Chris from Ohio wrote, You're why I didn't quit last month. Hang in there. Jake blinked. He wasn't just surviving, he was still helping. The breaking point didn't break him. It bent him, sure, but Stoicism held. He thought of Seneca. Difficulties. Strengthen the mind as labor does the body. This was his labor. He'd get through. The next few weeks were a grind. Jake rode the bus to work, ate cheap, and patched the couch with duct tape. Max didn't care, he just wanted belly rubs. The freelance client paid half what they owed. Better than nothing. Jake kept recording, even when he felt like a fraud. No fear, just focus became his mantra. not just a podcast title. Listeners stuck with him 600 now, some sending coffee money through a tip jar he'd set up. For Max, they'd write. He laughed. Max was the real star. Work stayed shaky, but Jake pitched a new campaign, gritty, Stoic-inspired ads about resilience. His boss liked it. This could sell. Hours didn't jump back, but he got a small bonus. Mom's tests came back okay, just a tweak. To the meds. Emily hugged him when he left Milwaukee. "You're a rock, Jake." He smirked. Blame the Romans. The climb wasn't fast. Rent got tight. He negotiated a late payment with his landlord, promising to catch up. The car stayed dead. He'd fix it when cash flowed again. But he wasn't sinking. Every day he leaned on the playbook. Epictetus for control, Marcus for clarity, Seneca for grit. He ran again, legs burning, mind clearing. "You're stronger than you think," he'd tell himself, echoing Seneca. One night a listener emailed, "Jake, I'm a single mom. Lost my job. Kids are driving me nuts. Your podcast keeps me sane. How do I start this Stoic thing?" Jake grinned. He recorded a reply, "Start small. One thing you can control today, like breathing through the chaos. Build from there." He posted it, and she wrote back, "Tried it. Worked. Thanks." That was it, the ripple growing. He wasn't just climbing. He was pulling others up. By summer, things steadied. Work bumped him to 30 hours. The podcast hit 800 listeners, and he fixed the car. Max chewed a sock, but Jake just laughed amorfati. He'd face the pileup and come out tougher. Stoicism wasn't a fix-it wand. It was a way to fight smart. And he wasn't done. Summer rolled into fall, and Jake was still standing. Not thriving yet, but steady. The podcast hummed along at 800 listeners, work held at 30 hours, and Max kept life chaotic in the best way. The car was fixed, rent was current, and his mom's health was stable. It wasn't a Hollywood ending. Jake wasn't rich or famous, but it was real. He'd built something, a life that didn't buckle under pressure. Stoicism had carried him through storms, big and small, and he felt it in his bones. This was who he was now. Then came the email that changed everything. It was late September, leaves crunching underfoot as he walked Max. His phone pinged a message from a guy named Ryan, a small-time producer in Chicago. "Jake, I've been listening to your podcast. Love the vibe, raw, real stoic. I run a local media outfit. Let's talk." Jake stopped mid-step, Max tugging the leash. "Talk? About what?" He wrote back, "Sure, what's up?" Ryan replied fast, "Your story's gold. I want to turn it into something bigger, maybe a series. Coffee tomorrow?" Jake showed up at a dingy cafe downtown, Max's hair still on his jeans. Ryan was a wiry guy, all energy, sipping an espresso. "Here's the pitch," he said. "Your Stoic Playbook thing, it's not just a podcast. It's a mindset people need. I've got a platform, video mostly, 50K subscribers. Let's make short episodes your stories, your voice, but polished. Real-life stoicism for regular folks. You in?" Jake blinked. A series? Video? He wasn't a TV guy, he was just Jake. But Ryan kept going. "You've got the grit. People connect. We split the ad cash, grow it together." It was a lot. Jake's first thought was fear. What if I suck? What if it flops? Old Jake would have bailed. New Jake heard Epictetus in his head. You don't control the outcome, just the effort. He thought of Marcus, too. Do what's in front of you with courage. This was in front of him. He stuck out his hand. "I'm in." Ryan grinned. Knew it. The next month was a whirlwind. They filmed in Jake's apartment, Max crashing shots, chewing, cables keeping it real. First episode, the traffic jam story. Shot with Jake leaning on his beat-up car, talking straight to the camera. "Life's gonna jam you up," he said. "You don't fix the traffic, you fix your head." Ryan added slick edits, stoic quotes popping on screen. They dropped it online and it hit 10,000 views in a week. Comments rolled in. "This guy gets it more." Jake's podcast listeners jumped to 1,200. The ripple was a wave now. But the real breakthrough wasn't the numbers. It was a night after. The third episode aired, Jake retelling the hospital scare, voice steady, Max snoring in the background. He got a message from that single mom who'd emailed months back. Jake, I watched. I'm working again. Kids are nuts. But I'm okay. You're why. Thank you. He sat there staring at the screen, Max's head on his lap. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was bigger. He'd turned fear into focus, chaos into clarity, and now it was lighting up other lives. That's when it clicked. Stoicism wasn't a solo game. It was a playbook for anyone willing to pick it up. Jake thought of Seneca's line. We are members of one great body. He wasn't an emperor or a slave, just a guy with a dog and a mic, but he was part of something. The breaking points, the storms, the climate all led here, no fear, just focus, and he wasn't done. Jake's story doesn't end with a bow. Life's still messy, Max still chews stuff, money's still tight sometimes, and the world keeps spinning. But he's got the playbook. Traffic jams, hospital waits, job cuts, blizzard, she's faced them, all and come out stronger. Not because he's special, but because he found something that works. Stoicism. It's not about being perfect or fearless. It's about showing up, focusing on what you can do and letting the rest roll off. Jake's living proof, and now he's sharing it. That's where you come in. Hey, I'm your name, and this is the Daily Stoic Mindset. Jake's story is just the start. We're here to bring you real, no BS tales of stoicism and action modern playbooks for everyday life. Traffic jams, breakups, work stress, we've got you. Hit that subscribe button, join the ride, and stick around for the next story, because if Jake can turn fear into focus, so can you. See you in the next one. Let's keep building this together.